Long ago, Earth stood alone and unwanted. The great councils of the stars looked down on its people and saw only conflict and fear. They decided humanity was too dangerous to join their peaceful alliance. One by one, the star nations closed their gates to Earth, leaving it to spin in silence among the lonely seas and tall forests. On the world below, people felt the weight of rejection. Mothers clasped their children close at night and wondered if any star would ever shine on their dreams again. In hidden workshops and secret laboratories, a small group of engineers and visionaries refused to accept exile as their fate. Night after night, they labored under the glow of sparking tools and humming machines. Their hands moved with fierce determination as they built engines that bent light and forged alloys stronger than any metal known beyond Earth's gravity. With every bolt tightened and every circuit tested, hope rose in their hearts. They believed that one day, Earth's people would show the galaxy what humanity could become when pushed to its limits. Among those dreamers was Commander Yasmin Rafiq, a veteran pilot whose calm voice once guided Earth's tiny patrols among the asteroids. She had seen both the beauty and the cruelty of space. Now she stood in the cavernous hangar of the new shipyard, eyes shining as she oversaw the final checks on a sleek silver vessel. It was unlike any craft she had flown before. Its hull pulsed with concealed power, and its engines whispered promises of speed and strength. Yasmin allowed herself a small smile. At last, Earth would have a voice strong enough to be heard. Meanwhile, in a quiet village by the sea, a young engineer named Arun practiced his craft on a salvaged data core. He had grown up dreaming of stars he could never reach. Now, the core's glowing circuits held blueprints for a star drive more efficient than anything in the galaxy. Arun's fingers trembled as he traced the diagrams. He remembered his grandmother's stories of human courage, of pioneers who crossed oceans and climbed mountains. He felt their spirit in his bones. With gentle care, he finished his work and whispered a promise: "We will rise again." As Earth's hidden workshops buzzed with activity, whispers spread among the people. Families gathered around holoscreens in simple homes, watching transmission tests from the secret fleet. Children pressed their faces to cracked windows, eyes wide with wonder at the flickering messages. "We remember you. We are coming." In towns and cities, hope bloomed like flowers after a long winter. People shared meals with neighbors they barely knew, speaking of a future where Earth would stand tall among the stars. Even those who had lost loved ones in old wars felt a spark of pride rekindled in their hearts. High above the clouds, leaders of Earth's nations met beneath a dome of transparent alloy. They sat around a polished table lit by soft white lights. Senior diplomats, scientists, and artists listened as Commander Yasmin and Arun presented their work. Every word they spoke carried the weight of sacrifice and determination. Quiet tears glistened in the eyes of some delegates, remembered dark days when their world seemed doomed. Now they saw a path to redemption drawn by their own hands. When the presentation ended, the council rose in unified applause, their applause echoing like distant thunder. That night, as Earth turned beneath a blanket of stars, Yasmin stood on a balcony overlooking the new dock. She watched the gleaming hulls of human ships, each one a promise made and kept. The breeze carried the scent of rain and earth, grounding her in the world she loved. She closed her eyes and listened to the soft hum of engines, no longer hiding. In silence, in her mind, she heard the voices of her crew, strong, hopeful, united. They were ready to sail beyond the edge of known space and into history, in villages. Cities and deserts across Earth, people looked up and felt a shift in the night sky. Something once distant felt suddenly possible. Mothers held their children and told stories of heroes to come. Workers on farms and in factories paused in their tasks, imagining the day their inventions would change the fate of worlds. Was no longer a forgotten rock, but a forge of innovation and unity. As the first human fleet prepared to depart, an electric thrill ran through every heart. Exiled no more, humanity stood ready to reclaim its place among the stars in the galaxy, would tremble at its growing power. A fleet of sleek human vessels slipped through the silent void, each ship moving as if guided by a single mind. Commander Yasmin Rafiq sat on the bridge of the flagship, her hands resting lightly on the controls. Around her, officers and engineers monitored energy readings and shield harmonics. Every gauge glowed with promise. Yasmin remembered long nights of doubt back on Earth, when many believed their secret project would fail. Now, as the fleet advanced beyond the outer colonies, she felt a surge of pride and responsibility. This moment was the turning point of humanity's exile, a chance to prove that they belonged among the stars. Below decks, young Lieutenant Arun Patel checked the final calibration on a new energy weapon. His fingers danced over the interface, adjusting power flows until the hum of the prototype was pure and steady. He thought of the data cores he had studied back home, and the countless hours spent perfecting the design. In his mind, he saw the faces of his friends who had dreamed alongside him. He imagined their joy when the weapon's first test beam would light up empty space. Arun let himself smile, calling his grandmother's voice telling him that human ingenuity could overcome any obstacle. As the fleet approached the Garrick expanse, ancient star charts warned of turbulence and rogue asteroids. Scanners flickered with overlapping signals. Suddenly, the convoy's harmony snapped as a warning klaxon blared. A cluster of jagged rocks loomed ahead, crossing their path faster than expected. Yasmin's voice was calm but firm. All hands, brace for evasion. Deploy thrusters at 50%. Ships shuddered, maneuvers executed with the precision of dancers. In those tense moments, each pilot felt the bond of shared purpose. They dodged the danger as one, emerging into calmer space, hearts pounding but unbroken. Far away on a colonial station, sensors picked up the fleet's passage. Lieutenant Commander Mira Solis watched the readings with mounting curiosity. Human convocation had never ventured this far without oath or sanction. She tapped her console, sending a discreet message to the Orion League's High Council. Her voice trembled as she spoke of the unprecedented energy signatures and advanced defensive arrays. This is not a routine exploration, she warned. Prepare for a possible threat. Mira knew that fear often sparked conflict, but she also believed in careful diplomacy. Still, she could not ignore the signs of what Earth's people were quietly building. Back on the flagship, Yasmin convened a strategy meeting. Around an oval table, her senior officers shared reports on weapons range, shield efficiency, and communications jamming. Some spoke of worry: would the League respond with force? Others saw opportunity. Could they gain allies among the outer worlds tired of bureaucratic rule? Yasmin listened to every voice with respect. She knew that unity came from shared decisions, not orders from above. When the meeting ended, she stood and said, "We go forward not to conquer, but to find our place and offer what we can." Her simple words echoed through the chamber, drawing nods of agreement. That night, the crew gathered in the mess hall. Soft laughter mixed with the clink of utensils as stories were shared. A heavyset engineer named Braga recounted a failed test, where a microfault nearly fried the drive coils. The room erupted in laughter when Braga mimicked the frantic beeps of the alarm. Even Yasmin chuckled, the sound warm and genuine. In another corner, Arun quietly showed a group of civilians the holographic rendering of his energy weapon. Eyes widened as beams of light danced in the air. Fathers and mothers leaned forward, imagining how this invention might protect their homes one day. In these moments, the fleet was more than steel, and Circuit Sit was a family united by hope. As the ships rested in a hidden pocket of space, Yasmin stepped onto the observation deck. She gazed into the black canvas, dotted with stars, each light a world full of stories. She remembered Earth's lonely nights, when people had whispered prayers into the wind, hoping that someone, somewhere, would listen. She felt that listening. Ear in the hum of the engines and the steady rhythm of the crew's lives. A soft glow from the control panel highlighted her determined face. Tomorrow, they would enter the boundaries of the Orion League. She drew a steady breath, her mind clear. Humanity's next step would become history. Before turning in, Yasmin sent a simple message through secure channels. To everyone on Earth and in the fleet, remember why we journey. We seek not vengeance, but recognition. We build not weapons of fear, but shields of trust. Let our actions echo louder than any warning. Message carried across millions of kilometers, reaching hearts on distant worlds. Somewhere, mothers held their children tighter, taught by example to stand proud. Somewhere, diplomats paused mid-speech, reconsidering the meaning of strength. And somewhere beyond the horizon of known space, the galaxy began to tremble not in fear of conquest, but in anticipation of a new chapter written by exiles no longer bound by rejection. In the silent darkness beyond the outer rim, the human fleet came upon a forgotten beacon. It was a research outpost once built by Earth's long-lost allies, now drifting empty among broken satellites and drifting debris. Commander Yasmin. Rafik ordered the fleet to hold position as a small boarding party prepared to descend. The outpost's hull was scarred by micrometeoroids, and its lights were long since extinguished. Still, Yasmin felt her heart race. Here lay secrets that could change everything. Lieutenant Arun Patel led the boarding team through the airlock. His boots made soft thuds on the metal floor as he scanned for life signs. The station's corridors were dark and cold, but his flashlight beam danced over faded insignias and flickering panels. He recalled stories of the original crew scientists who had welcomed Earth's help and shared knowledge freely. Now, everything felt frozen in time. Dust lay thick on equipment, and broken data ports hung like silent witnesses to lives once full of hope. Deep in the station's lab, they found rows of sealed vaults. Yasmin pressed her hand against a reinforced door and activated the override. The vault slid open with a hiss, revealing stacks of glowing data cores. Each core pulsed with faint blue light, as though it held the memory of countless hours of work. Arun carefully lifted one and cradled it like a treasure. He felt a sudden warmth in his chest, as if the station itself had reached out to greet him. Back on the flagship, engineers worked to interface the cores with their system. Every screen that flickered to life showed diagrams for advanced star drives, shield matrices, and clean energy reactors. Arun watched data stream in endless columns of symbols that spoke of possibilities beyond imagination. He remembered his grandmother's words. Knowledge is a gift passed from one heart to another. Tears filled his eyes as he realized that gift had survived, waiting for humanity to reclaim it. In the midst of this discovery, a soft alarm echoed through the outpost. Sensors had detected movement outside the docking bay. Yasmin and Arun exchanged a glance before rushing back to the entrance. There, they saw a single shuttle bearing the emblem of the Orion League. Its engines were idling, and its hatch was opening. Neither side knew why the other arrived, but the silence was heavy with tension. Both parties were wary, unsure whether to expect friendship or conflict. Yasmin stepped forward, her hands open and raised in the universal sign of peace. The League. Envoy hesitated before opening their own hatch. A woman dressed in sleek uniform emerged, visor reflecting the lab's faint glow. Her voice was cautious as she asked, "Why are you here?" Yasmin met her eyes and spoke with quiet strength. "We came to reclaim what was lost. These cores belong to all who seek progress." The envoy's expression softened, curiosity. Fighting with suspicion, Arun moved beside Yasmin and offered one of the cores with trembling hands. "Please," he said, "see what you will. This knowledge helped build your outpost once. You want only to share, not to take." The envoy's fingers hovered above the core, as though touching a fragile memory. In that moment, the past reached across the void and bound two peoples together. The envoy took a deep breath, nodding slowly. "Then let us see," she whispered. Together, the two crews returned to the flagship and set up a shared lab. Under flickering lights, human and League scientists worked side by side. Data once locked behind layers of secrecy flowed freely across screens and panels. Engineers scribbled notes and sketched new designs, while diplomats from both sides exchanged cautious smiles. Arun watched the scene unfold, his heart swelling with pride. This was more than discovery. It was the first step toward healing old wounds. As the sun rose on Earth's homeworld, the fleet held a ceremony in zero gravity above the planet. Yasmin spoke of exile and devotion, of nights spent dreaming under starlit skies. The envoy from the League spoke too, of mistakes made and lessons learned. Together, they lowered a single data core into a transparent sphere, a symbol of unity. In shared purpose, every crew member watched in silent wonder as the core's light pulsed steadily, echoing the hope now kindled in their hearts. Back on Earth, messages of the discovery spread like wildfire. Families gathered around holoscreens to watch the live broadcast of the ceremony. Children pointed at the shimmering core and asked about its secrets. Communities celebrated quietly, tears and laughter mingling under the night sky. In homes and workshops, people dreamed of the new inventions and faster voyages that would follow. Arun's grandmother, watching from her garden, smiled through her tears. She whispered to the warm breeze, "They remember us, humanities." Exile was not an end, but a beginning, and the galaxy would soon tremble at their shared progress. Commander Yasmin Rafiq stood on the bridge of the flagship, her gaze steady on the view screen as it displayed the council hall of the Orion League. Tall pillars of ivory and crystal rose around a circular chamber where representatives from every member world had gathered. Their center sat the High Council, faces framed by soft light and robes of fine fabric. The air was thick with uncertainty. None expected Earth's fleet to arrive so boldly, nor to seek dialogue instead of battle. Yasmin felt her pulse quicken, but she held her voice calm when she spoke into the comlink. "This is Commander Yasmin Rafiq of the United Earth Fleet," she began. "We seek an audience with your council. We come in peace and with shared purpose." Below her calm tone, every officer on the bridge felt the weight of history. They remembered how the League had once closed its doors to Earth and how humanity had labored in secret ever since. Now, in this moment, they carried the hopes of their entire species into the heart of galactic power. On the other side of space, Ambassador Kellen Varys rose to address the council. His voice echoed through the hall as he recounted humanity's exile. He spoke of Earth's noble achievements in art, science, and compassion that had been overlooked in fear of its past conflicts. He described how people on Earth had turned isolation into innovation, forging bonds of trust in place of walls. As he spoke, some council members exchanged uneasy glances. A few still wore expressions of doubt, but many others softened, their eyes reflecting memories of shared research and long-lost friendships. A soft chime announced that Yasmin's fleet had activated its unmanned defense array. Suddenly, dozens of slender drones drifted into view around the Orion Council's perimeter. They were sleek and silent, each carrying a pulse shield generator capable of saving entire worlds from disaster. Council members gasped as the drones formed a protective circle around the hall, their blue energy fields shimmering like living. Glass Yasmin's calm message followed. "These defenses are ours to share. We offer them to the League and to any who wish for security." Murmurs swelled in the council hall. Some delegates bristled at the display of power, insisting it bordered on intimidation. Others noted the careful wording, "Share not demand, offer not threat." Councillor Amina Soul, a respected voice for peace, stood and spoke. Her clear tone carried across the chamber. "Humanity has shown both strength and goodwill. Their offer of defense does not come with demands for control. This could be the greatest gift we have seen in ages." Her words brought nods and quiet approval. Back on the bridge, Yasmin allowed herself a small, hopeful smile. She had feared the drones might be misread as an act of aggression. Instead, they served as proof of Earth's commitment to protect rather than conquer. She turned to Lieutenant Arun Patel, who watched the channels with wide eyes. "You did well," she said softly. Arun's heart swelled. He remembered the countless nights spent perfecting the shield generator's code. Now, his work helped build bridges where walls once stood. In the council hall, Ambassador Varys concluded, "We stand ready to cooperate and to learn from one another. Let this day mark a new chapter between Earth and the League." Bells rang to signal the end of the session, and delegates rose from their seats. Some hurried to the transport docks, eager to meet the humans face to face. Others lingered in quiet contemplation, considering the promise of Earth's offer. Outside, the human drones shimmered in the council's outer docks, a silent testament to unity. Later that evening, Yasmin and Arun walked side by side along the flagship's observation deck. The stars above seemed brighter, as if touched by Earth's renewed hope. Arun glanced at Yasmin and said, "I never imagined we would be greeted with open arms rather than weapons." Yasmin placed a hand on his shoulder. "We showed them who we are now," she replied. "Not the frightened exiles, but the builders of peace." In her words, Arun felt the truth of their journey, one born of pain, tempered by resilience, and guided by compassion. Across the galaxy, news feeds and holoscreens broadcast the momentous day. Families on distant colonies watched in wonder, as humans and League representatives shook hands beneath the glow of the drone shields. Children pointed at the screens, eyes shining with dreams of unity and shared adventure. In that moment, Earth's exile ended not with a battle, but with a promise to stand together stronger than before. The galaxy did not tremble in fear, but in awe of what humanity had become, a force for protection, cooperation, and hope among the stars. Across Earth's great continents, the news of the Orion League's warm reception spread like sunrise after a long night. In the glittering dome of New Delhi's Unity Council, delegates from every nation gathered once more. They came carrying stories of hardship and hope: farmers from dust-drenched plains, artists from coastal cities, engineers from mountain labs. Each voice rose in turn, speaking not of old grievances, but of the shared dream brought to life among the stars. Ambassador Kellen Varese recounted the League's acceptance of humanity's gift. Tears glistened on more than one cheek. In those moments, Earth's people felt their wounds begin to heal, bound together by a purpose larger than any border. Within the council chamber, heated debates gave way to consensus as leaders recognized a truth that had guided their secret. Efforts, unity breeds strength. A poet from Lagos spoke of rivers that flow through many lands yet remain one. A teacher from Snow Paulo described children who learn side by side, their differences woven into a tapestry richer than any single thread. Engineers and soldiers nodded in agreement, recalling sleepless nights spent perfecting shields and star drives. When the final vote took place, every hand rose in unison. Earth would dedicate its resources to rebuilding worlds in need, helping former foes stand on their own feet. Their applause echoed through the dome like rolling thunder. In the hidden shipyards beneath the Himalayas, workshops hummed with activity. Technicians assembled medical drones that could treat entire villages in hours. Scientists calibrated terraforming pods to revive barren worlds. Young apprentices polished spacecraft hulls until they shone like mirrors, ready to carry Earth's goodwill across the void. Among them was Lila, a bright-eyed engineer who had grown up listening to stories of exiled pioneers. She pressed her palm against a new drone's smooth surface, feeling the hum of its nanobot injectors.
Ow.
"This will heal the sick," she whispered, remembering her own mother's long illness. As the drone's circuits glowed to life, Leela felt hope surge through her veins. Meanwhile, in the dusty corridors of the Martian colony, farmers reveled in the news of Earth's new missions. They had spent years coaxing life from rust-colored soil, raising crops beneath geodesic domes. Now they would share their knowledge. On distant worlds still ravaged by war and disaster, a young agronomist named Tariq prepared seed banks filled with hardy grains and flowering plants. He imagined a world where families returned home to gardens of green, where children laughed among blossoms instead of hiding in bombed-out ruins. With every flask of nutrient solution he packed, Tariq sealed a promise. Earth's exile would end not with conquest, but with nourishment and renewal.
Ow.
On the flagship bound for Andros 4, Commander Yasmin Rafiq reviewed mission orders with a solemn smile. Their fleet had grown from a handful of vessels to dozens, each laden with supplies and specialists. Next to her stood Lieutenant Arun Patel, his uniform streaked with oil from late-night repairs. Together they studied maps of Andros's shattered moon where refugees waited for clean water and shelter. Yasmin's voice was steady as she assigned roles. Medical teams to the mountain settlements, engineers to the salt flats, diplomats to the city ruins. In her heart, she felt the weight of expectations, but also an unwavering belief in humanity's capacity for kindness. As the fleet emerged from hyperspace above Andros 4, the passengers gazed down at a world scarred by centuries of conflict. Craters pockmarked the surface, and rivers ran thick with sludge. Yet patches of green shone where small enclaves of hope had sprung up. Yasmin lowered the shields and hailed the ground crews. Soft cheers rippled through the bridges as messages came in. Children greeted the ships with bright banners, elders wept with relief, and workers waved makeshift tools in celebration. For a moment, the dark sky seemed to glow with possibility. Humanity's exile had taught them to cherish every spark of life, and now they would fan those sparks into flames. On the surface, Ambassador Kellen Varys stepped onto the dust-choked plain, flanked by League envoys and Earth deputies. He spoke to a gathered crowd of weary survivors. His words carried on a gentle breeze. "We were once cast aside," he said, voice rising with conviction. "Now we stand together to rebuild what was broken. Your pain is our pain. Your hope is our hope." Silence fell, broken only by the soft whir of drones distributing clean water and supplies. Then, as if released from a great burden, the crowd erupted into applause and tears. Children pressed forward to touch the ambassador's uniform, their eyes shining with dreams of a brighter tomorrow. That night, beneath a canopy of unfamiliar stars, Yasmin and Arun stood side by side in a small refugee tent. Lanterns cast warm circles of light on the rough fabric walls. Around them, families whispered prayers of gratitude. Mothers cradled infants to sleep, and friends shared whispered plans for rebuilding homes. Yasmin looked at Arun, her heart full. "We have become more than exiles," she said softly. "We are healers, builders, friends in the cosmos." Arun nodded, his eyes reflecting the flickering lantern glow. Soon he replied, "The galaxy will know us not for our past, but for our promise." In that quiet moment, Earth's people embraced their new destiny as a force for unity, and hope in the galaxy trembled, not with fear, but with the wonder of what lay ahead. On the fringes of the Andros system, the human fleet gathered to plan their next move. Commander Yasmin Rafiq stood before a holographic map, her silhouette lit by the blue glow of data lines. Around her, engineers and diplomats leaned forward, voices hushed with purpose. They spoke of the challenges ahead, rebuilding cities, restoring power grids, and forging trust with wary locals. Yasmin listened to every concern with patience and respect. In her heart, she felt the weight of responsibility, but also the warmth of shared resolve. Together, they would turn ruins into hope. Lieutenant Arun Patel moved among the makeshift workstations where technicians calibrated terraforming pods. His fingers flew over controls, adjusting nutrient mixtures and soil scanners. He remembered Earth's dusty plains and the long nights when he imagined seeds sprouting beneath alien suns. Now, every pod held the promise of life on a world that had almost forgotten it. Arun paused to smile at a young botanist named May, whose eyes shone as she loaded biogel into a hatch. "One day soon," he said softly, "this land will bloom." Again, meanwhile, on the battered streets of the Androsian capital, Ambassador Kellen Varys walked among refugees, carried water ration packs, and listened to stories of loss and resilience. Mothers spoke of children lost to famine, elders, of village wells gone dry. Kellen bowed his head in sorrow, then offered a gentle word of comfort. "We are here," he told them. "We will not leave until you stand tall once more." His kindness spread through the crowd like morning light, and for a moment despair gave way to cautious hope. High above, drones hovered in steady formation. spraying purified air and monitoring environmental readings. A technician named Sora watched the feed from her console, heart swelling at the sight of healthy plants sprouting in once barren fields. She tapped the screen to zoom in on a sapling, pushing through red soil. "Look," she whispered to her partner, "life finds a way." Round her, others gathered, cheering softly. In that shared joy, they felt the best of humanity shining through every circuit and sensor. Back on the flagship, Commander Yasmin received a coded transmission from the Orion League's new liaison, Counselor Amina Sol. The message spoke of a summit on the neutral world of Serix Prime, where Earth and League leaders would discuss joint reconstruction efforts. Yasmin's chest tightened with anticipation and nerves. She recalled the first meeting in the council hall, how her offer of shields had turned doubt into applause. Now, she prepared to stand on a world famous for its history of peace, ready to deepen the bonds they had forged. That evening, in the ship's observation lounge, Yasmin and Arun shared a quiet moment. Stars drifted past the viewport like silent witnesses. Arun handed Yasmin a small crystal vial filled with Androsian soil. "For luck," he said with a grin. Yasmin accepted it, feeling its weight in her palm. She thought of Earth's own soil, dark and rich, and the gardens that had taught them to nurture life. Her eyes softened as she thanked him. In that simple gift, she saw trust and friendship stitched across cultures and light years. On Serix, Prime delegations arrived under banners woven with Earth's emblem in the League's crest. Streets lined with tall bronze trees shimmered in the twilight. Citizens gathered, curious and hopeful, to welcome the newcomers. Music floated on the breeze, a blend of Earth's instruments and alien chords. Yasmin stepped from the transport with Arun and Kellen by her side. She felt her heart flutter as crowds cheered. For the first time in her life, she walked not as an exile, but as an honored guest. Bearing the promise of cooperation, inside the grand hall of Serix's summit chamber, leaders took their seats at a long curved table. Yasmin's voice carried clearly as she spoke of shared dreams, clean planets, flourishing worlds, and children playing under safe skies. Counselor Sol rose to echo those dreams, her words weaving Earth and League into a single tapestry of purpose. As hands shook and pens signed new accords, delegates smiled and clasped one another's arms. Across the hall, Arun watched with tears glistening in his eyes, amazed that exile had given way to partnership. When the summit ended, fireworks, a joint creation of human engineers and Serixian artists, lit the sky in ribbons of green and gold. Yasmin, Arun, and Kellen stood together on a high balcony, watching the display. The lights reflected in their faces, and for a moment, silence held them in awe. Then Yasmin spoke softly. "We began cast aside, but now we stand united." Arun nodded, breath warm with emotion. Below them, the crowd cheered as colors danced across alien clouds. In that moment, humanity's journey had come full circle, from exile to embrace. Their power lay not in weapons or fear, but in the shared pulse of hope that beat across the galaxy. On the day the summit on Serix Prime ended, the human fleet prepared to return home. Commander Yasmin Rafiq stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the stars slide past like silver sparks. She thought of every moment that had brought them. Here, the secret workshops on Earth, the silent drift of a forgotten outpost, the tense greeting in the Orion Council, and the hope-filled faces on Andros 4. Each step had been a trial and a triumph. Now, as Earth's world came into view on the viewscreen, she felt her heart swell with pride and relief. Their exile was over, and the galaxy had opened its gates in wonder rather than fear. Below decks, Lieutenant Arun Patel walked among engineers and diplomats, packing away samples and plans. He carried with him a small case filled with communications crystals gifted by Serix Prime's children, tiny devices that pulsed with gentle light when activated. Arun remembered how those children had stared at him with shy smiles as he knelt. To explain Earth's gifts, he tucked the case into his pack, knowing those crystals would become treasures in Earth's museums of friendship. He felt a warm glow in his chest, proof that human kindness could cross every gulf of space and culture as the fleet dropped through Earth's atmosphere. People across the globe paused to look skyward. In bustling cities and quiet villages, families gathered in open fields. Holographic screens displayed the proud sigil of the United Earth Fleet, and cheers rose like rolling thunder. Children danced beneath billowing banners, and elders wept tears of joy. Farmers set down their tools and waved at the sky. Scientists stopped their workstations and clapped. In that moment, every human felt a shared heartbeat, a single breath of hope and unity. The ship's engines hummed a return that echoed humanity's own long journey from exile to embrace. When the flagship touched down in the rebuilt docks of New Geneva, Yasmin stepped onto solid ground with Aron and Ambassador Kellen Varese at her side. The air smelled of fresh rain and blooming flowers planted to welcome them home. Crowds of civilians, soldiers, and leaders formed a living carpet, stretching down the avenue lined with glowing lanterns. As Yasmin walked, hands reached out to touch her uniform. She saw gratitude in every face, people who had lived in fear of forgotten wars, now certain that Earth's future was bright. Ern's hand found hers in a quiet gesture of solidarity. Their eyes met, and no words were needed to share the depth of their achievement. In the months that followed, Earth sent aid and experts to every corner of the galaxy. Doctors traveled aboard light cruisers to heal the sick and terraforming. Teams sailed on gentle ships to restore dying worlds. Students from Earth and League worlds exchanged visits, studying each other's histories and dreams. Music and art flowed between cultures, weaving new traditions. Every treaty signed and every new colony begun carried the mark of human compassion born in the crucible of exile. Across alien skies, Earth's flag was no longer a symbol of defiance, but a banner of hope. Late one evening, Yasmin visited the quiet park where she had first dreamed of leaving Earth behind. Tall trees cast soft shadows, and the lake reflected starlight like scattered jewels. She sat on a simple bench carved with the names of those who had fallen in secret testing and hidden missions. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, as if carrying their voices. Arun joined her, holding 2 cups of warm tea. Together, they raised the cups in a silent toast to every person who had believed in a future brighter than their past. Yasmin closed, her eyes breathing in the warm, familiar air. Here, finally, was home reborn. On the anniversary of Earth's return to Galactic Fellowship, celebrations erupted once more. Statues of Yasmin and Arun stood in plazas beside monuments to cooperation. Between humans and League worlds, children played in fountains shaped like interlocking hands, water arching in perfect harmony. Leaders gathered in open forums to discuss new ventures, safe trade routes, shared research on cosmic phenomena, and collaborative missions to uncharted star systems. Every idea was greeted with enthusiasm, proof that the galaxy trembled not in dread but in awe of what Fellowship could achieve, as sunlight broke over the domes of New Geneva. Commander Yasmin Rafiq addressed a gathering one last time. Her voice was steady and warm. "We were cast aside," she said, "but we rose together, found our strength in unity, our purpose in compassion, and our destiny among friends. Let the story of Earth remind every world, exile can forge hope, and hope can shape a galaxy." Cheers rose up, carrying her words across continents and starways. And in every distant system, humanity's legacy shone a testament that even the smallest world, once banished, could become the greatest beacon. Of all,